Welcome, everybody, to the Yo Kids Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Gargano. This is the podcast that surrounds everything youth sports. So I've covered pro and college sports, the highest level, and I have fallen in love with youth sports. I'm a big believer in sports for children. I just think it's such a great outlet and keeps them out of trouble, they learn so many great life lessons. So as we go forward with the podcast, we're going to be talking to a lot of different people in the world of youth sports. We'll talk to some professional athletes who have children of themselves. We'll talk about the journey of the athlete. We'll highlight some of the terrific youth sports athletes across the Delaware Valley and beyond. But really, we really wanted to try to give some advice to the parents. Listen, if you got a good story, good idea, please, like I said, hit me up and we'll get to it. Yo Kids Sports Podcast. And don't forget, our Yo Kids Sports Podcast is presented by Primo Hoagies. Listen, know what I've always said for years and years and years. It's not just a hoagie, it's a Primo. And this fall, whether you're tailgating, football, soccer, it's youth, you name it, make sure you got your Primo Hoagie party tray. Nothing like it for the big game. And speaking of football and the big game, this fall we're giving away a trip to Vegas to see the very big game to one very lucky, very deserving coach. So if you know a youth coach that you think deserves recognition for their outstanding dedication and passion, make your nominations today. PrimoHoagies.com. You can go directly mvc.primohoagies.com. Our most valuable coach promotion here at Primos. I love it. We got to shine some love, give some love to these youth coaches that spend their time, many of whom just getting their full and no compensation. So they're the best. Nominate your favorite coach. Again, it's the Primo Hoagies most valuable coach contest. I love it. I think it's great. And who knows, maybe they'll get to see the birds at the big game. Wouldn't that be something? All right, welcome. Here we go. It's Yo Kid Sports, and we are very pleased right now to have with us the athletic director at one of the legendary schools right here in the Delaware Valley. Just an incredible school, an incredible athletic prowess, and of course, Daniel DiBerardinis, our AD at St. Joe's Prep. Danny, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Very good, very good. So first of all, thanks for hanging. And I do want to get into where you guys are right now when it comes to kind of building the powerhouse that you've had in all sports, especially football. You know, how did you guys really make that kind of leap into that, national stage?
Yeah. Well, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. We were very lucky to have Gabe Infante kind of started the program back in 2013, where he kind of took the program to a next level. The school really supported him in a strong way, and he really advanced it by, just expecting more of the boys, right? The hard work, the 6 a.m. practices, the extra stuff in the weight room. He made it like a small college program. They did meals together. They did community service. They did projects together. They did a lot of team building year round. And it really started clicking. And then, some guys like John Reed, who's in the NFL, John Runyon, who's now in the NFL, those guys kind of, DeAndre Swifts, they kind of set the tone early on. And then ever since then, we've just been rolling the ball uphill, and we got a lot of support from the school. And we've been fortunate to get a lot of great student athletes through our doors who are just working really, really hard. And now we're perennial top 25, and we've been rolling the last couple of years. So it's been exciting.
Another trip on ESPN.
Yes, sir. Yeah, August 26th. The number 3 team in the country, IMG, will be coming up this way, and we'll be playing in Ocean City, New Jersey, 7 p.m. on ESPN2. So I wish everyone could tune in or come down to the game. It's going to be a great night.
What a great experience too! Like, and to have it down the shore, right? Like to kick off this season. That's a exciting time, man. Under the lights, that's really cool. Good idea.
Yeah. We got approached by the South Jersey coaches, committee or conference, and they really wanted to put this together. And I sat down with our coach. I said, it's hard for us to get non-conference games since we, as we gotten better locally. But I said, let's go for it, man. Let's just play the best out there. And we lined up a really, really tough schedule for the year. But I think that's iron sharpens iron, and that's the way we're going to get our boys to be the best possible experience for them.
Dan, if you take like last year's team, how many kids went on to play Division One?
So last year's class, we probably had 6 go on to play Division One, but I think 12 went on to play college football of the 18.
Wow.
18 seniors, and they all had an opportunity. Some just they had a dream school in mind, and they wanted to move on or had a different major. But yeah, I mean, that's our goal. My goal as athletic director is to have every kid have that opportunity to, if they have a passion, to go on to that next level and continue to hone those skills and develop themselves. But this year's class, already have 7 signed of our seniors going Division One, from Cincinnati to West Virginia to Wisconsin, to Townsend. So we got these guys going everywhere, and we still have more. We still have a bunch that are, have offers that are still filling out the process and, are still doing visits and such. So hopefully in this class, we'll have another 10-ish Division One players for next year. So that'll be great.
So, what's really kind of cool, Dan, is how the NFL community locally has really embraced your program, right? You mentioned John Runyon, who sent his son to you, Jeremiah Trotter, Marty Morningway, who was one of the great offensive coaches in the game for a long time. They all sent their kids. It's like the next generation coming through you guys.
Yeah, so we've been very blessed to have those guys, Marvin and Jeremiah, help out with our program over the last couple of years. And I think the first thing that draws these guys to the prep is the education, right? 1% make it to Division One, 1% of that make it to the NFL. Those guys know the odds. So they want their kids to have a strong academic and a great, experience. And I think that prep has a phenomenal balance there. We're also been really good at football the last couple of years, so that helps out. And those guys are, Marvin and Jeremiah are on our sidelines basically every game. And Jeremiah is at almost every practice. And, our kids are so lucky and blessed to have those guys, giving them tips. They've been through it. Marvin's a Hall of Famer. Jeremiah is, one of the greatest linebackers ever put on the Eagles uniform. And these guys are down there like an average Joe, giving our kids their with all their passion and just giving them tips and knowledge to really take them to the next level. So it's a credit to them. It's also a credit to the academics of the prep that kind of, I think, initially draws them to us. And we've been very fortunate. And we've been, this thing's been rolling the last couple of years, but they've played a huge role in it for sure.
Obviously, for this episode, we're going to focus a lot on football, and we'll get to the other sports in a moment. But what kind of advice do you have for parents that kids like I have 2 kids that play football. One's going into 8th grade, and then the other one is going into 5th. And when they're looking at getting ready, they're in South Jersey in the Clearview football program. What's the best way to get ready for their high school experience?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's just, having them have an open mind, right? Because they're going to come in, it's going to be a completely different world. It's really hard to really prepare for it. But at home, just coaching them up to say, hey, when we get here, we're just going to continue to work, and we just got to be ready for whatever comes our way. A majority of our kids, even our guys, our big name guys over the past couple of years, play freshman football their freshman year because it's such a change. And especially at the prep, we do 5 a.m. practices. It's a big adjustment. So to kind of get them in and the workload, it's all a big adjustment. So if kids come in and they're not discouraged from the workload or the amount of work they're doing, that balance, and they have someone at home encouraging them and telling them, look, this first year is going to be tough, but we're going to get through it, and we're going to be ready. And I think that's the mindset. I think that it's because no matter what, it's going to be hard, right? There's no easy way. There's no solution. There's no magic trick. It's just being ready with an open mindset and having a good support system at home, I think really goes a long way.
When do you start looking at kids? Like when you guys are
Yeah, so
when you're recruiting,
we don't
how does
really
that work?
we're not really we're not allowed to recruit, but the kids basically we do a lot of camps. So we have our doors open. We want kids at the prep to come around from 5th grade on, so we get to know them, right? It's a relationship building thing. So we do summer camps in school. We do summer enrichments, which a lot in the school. And then we also have a big football camp where, we draw, 120 kids every summer in late July. And it's just a good way for kids to kind of see our coaches and our coaches to see those kids because, within PIAA, you're not allowed to recruit. You're not allowed to have contact. So they have to reach out to the school and have interest in the school first before we're even allowed to have a conversation with them. So
okay, so you don't actually actively recruit the kids because it's interesting. Could you define some of the rules for us? Because I think there's a misconception for parents that think like, are my kids going to get recruited or what the deal with any sport?
People, the assumption is, they recruit and there's these scholarships. That doesn't exist, right? There's financial aid, there's academic money, right? That comes first and foremost. And then the other part is if they show interest in the school and they start that communication, then the coach is allowed to talk to them, but they have to show interest in the school. They're not going to go grabbing kids and calling them. But when you're successful, everyone's reaching out. So we have a bigger pool, right? Because we've been successful the last, 10 years. We've been to 7 state championships. We've won the state championships every year. We're top 25 in the country. So people come to us and they reach out to our mission director a lot, and they're coming to our open houses and they want to gauge information, right? So, and I also just encourage, our coaches to be tied in, to be out watching, right? To just, because it's all about giving back to the community. So like if a kid just us being a presence at game, it might mean the world to a kid, even though we're not there specifically for anything. We're just there watching and, trying to, have our school be seen, right? Because we want our guys to be out there. And yes, we're a little privileged and lucky in the fact that we've been so successful. A lot of people are already in 6th grade calling our mission director, this guy named Howie Brown. He's an excellent guy who can, start that process early on and tell them about all we have to offer before you get to the prep in 9th grade.
Is there something that parents should be doing? And again, this goes for any sport. Should they have their ould video? Should they upload video of their player, to try to get him or her noticed? Is there anything when it comes to that? Like when it comes to the parent and kind of understanding them, at least through, youth sports up until high school, do they do something like that? Do they need to do anything like that?
The best way to go about is reach out to the admissions director, right? And say, hey, my son's really interested in the school. We also love football. And can you pass this along to the football coach?
Gotcha.
That's along the schedule. I think that just for them to see them. And we try to get out as much as we can to see these kids and show them support, right? Especially when they're coming to our school, to show them that love and support. And that's what's really special about our program. Our coaches do a phenomenal job. We have 112 kids on JV varsity, more than we've ever had before. We dress everyone. We don't have enough jerseys this year, right? We have 60 kids on freshmen. So we have about 165 kids in our program. And that's a testament because everyone wants to be a part of it because they do it right. Everyone's held to the same standard. Everyone's treated the same way. So whether you're not in that top, 10, top 15, top 20, they wait it out because they know the process, and our coaches do a good job of loving up everyone. Everyone feels that love and attention that they need as long as they put the work in, right? We're going to hold QB1 to the same as we hold QB5, right? They got to work. They got to show up, and they got to be ready to put the work in. And that's a testament to our coaches and the culture that they've established at the prep. So that's kind of football. And it goes across the board for all our sports. But to answer your question, the best way is to reach out to the school admissions department and say, hey, we're interested. We also play XYZ. We would love, maybe for your coach to give us some pointers or reach out, and then they pass that along. And I tell my coaches, go. I'm like, oh, we got to be out there. So we go.
Do you see, have you seen any change in the kids when it comes to youth football, right? Because it's interesting. My Anthony's in 8th grade, and his class is pretty small. The kids that came out for football. Conversely, my Massimo just turned 10. There's 47 kids that came out for his age group of football, whereas the older ones, it's barely half of that.
Yeah,
You see a little bit of a change?
I've seen it, and it's been ebbs and flows, like you're saying. Like, it's been highs and lows. Some classes, and I don't really know the answer to it, Ant. There's been some classes are just really low. I don't know what the age group, or maybe in that area there's a big team in another sport. I really don't know the answer, but we've seen it where some classes are 40 and some classes are 70, and it's just how it's kind of been coming in and out the last couple of years. It is changing, and the culture is changing. I think more. I went to Roman Catholic. I was 05. No one really left. Now there's, like, even in the grade school and high school, there's a transfer culture, right? Like, kids,
Right.
They don't want to wait their turn anymore, right? They want instant gratification, and that's just the world we live in today. But we're lucky. Winning solves that. So people wait when you win. That we've been lucky enough that when you're winning, people wait. That's what I realized, because it's an annoyance, and it's the culture that the world is today. But when you win, a lot of times people wait. So that's kind of the cure for what I've seen.
And I think football itself, I think you're right about the culture of football too. Like, I'm growing up and coaches telling us you can't drink water, right? Like, what I mean? Like, you got to man up and don't drink water. And that whole mentality has completely changed. And we're way more evolved. I think, and you could speak to your program, but I think all around the area, I think everything's kind of changed, and it's changed from the youth level. The excessive football guy thing doesn't exist like it used to.
Yeah, and I think, again, a credit to our program, and we're talking about football right now, but in football, our coaches do a really good job of finding that balance, right? Of really, they know how to be hard, but also love them up, right? There's a balance of being tough when you got to be tough, but also having those kids know, all right, I might have just got my ass yelled at for 10 minutes straight, but at the end of the day, I know this dude loves me and he's got my back, right? So finding that balance is difficult. And I think our coaches do a really good job of understanding that, and, like, so that they maximize what they can get out of these kids on the team, because they found that balance. And it's hard to find. It's really hard to find these days, because the kid's different, right? And then they grew up being rode and telling them they got to put dirt on it, right? Like, so to find that middle ground is a challenge. But when you do, you really see the success.
Yeah, and I think it's important. And this is where in the football community, of the people I've met, it's so much more responsible. They're looking at kids' health. I mean, I think, obviously this scare, when it comes to head injuries and when it comes to all that stuff, the scare is a big deal. And I think, the youth's football went through a transition when it came to that stuff. Moms not letting their kids play football anymore.
For sure. And I think a way we're kind of combating that is, baseline testing, doing a ton of extra stuff for concussions. We're doing EKG testing, right? We're doing all this stuff. We're way more proactive. And I think that's kind of, since we've been rolling that out. So we do EKGs twice a year for our kids. We do baseline testing. Our trainer, everyone in our staff is first aid and CPR certified. So going at extras, being more proactive, which you have to be in today's world, I think that is slowly winning parents over. And we show them all we do. We're like, hey, everyone in this field is ready for this. We're over prepared, right? And that is kind of alleviate some stress, but it's a different world, right? And we're learning a lot. But I think when you put all those steps in place, it can alleviate some of the worries of these parents coming up.
When it comes to you get kids that are in like 7th, 8th grade, and obviously you have puberty, and kids are kind of in that mix of when do you start for the males to start lifting and to start doing weight work and that sort of thing? When you think the appropriate time is for training?
It really depends on the kid, right? And how their body's training. So we have a strength and conditioning coach. We're also lucky enough to have DeAndre Swiftfather on our staff. So he owns a gym and he knows a lot. And we also have another strength and conditioning coach So these guys, we put it in their court and they kind of evaluate the kid and where their body is and how far they want to get them. Everyone's on a different plan. There's not a exact science to it because everyone's body changes different. I mean, I'm not a tall guy, but I'm 5'9", but going into high school, I was 5 foot, 100 pounds, right? So I couldn't lift a thing, right? If I would have been thrown into a weight program and said you had to lift, who knows what would happened, right? So it kind of all depends on the situation, but you leaning on these people who have the knowledge, we again, we're lucky enough to have these people on our staff that have this great information and great knowledge. It all depends on when the kid starts really turning the corner. I think lightweight is always fine, but when you want to encourage and take that next step to really pushing them and to try to get them to start maxing out, I think it really has to be on how their body is growing and developing at that time.
So we live in the, and you know this better than anybody, we're living in this age of specialized, right? Like kids play, I'm a soccer player, I'm a football player, I'm a basketball player, I play baseball. And it's almost like the lost art of playing multiple sports because it's, you're trying to, catch up and keep up. What's your philosophy on playing multiple sports?
I encourage it. And I encourage it because they're our best. When a kid is good at both, they're the best athletes, right? And people want to specialize, but I believe at the core of it, 2-sport or multiple sport, even 3-sport, they're the best athletes we have, right? And they start them. We have, for instance, football player Tony Sackett's son. He played at Penn State. He's our quarterback. His kid is an elite safety. He has offers from Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, you name the school, right? He has an offer from Notre Dame. He plays baseball in the spring. We have a D tackle, this kid Maxwell Roy. He's from Delran. He wrestles. He's one of the best wrestlers in the state. He's a D tackle who has an offer from Georgia, Penn State, Michigan. And then he throws the discus and javelin in the spring. He goes year round. So I think especially people get caught up in it. I encourage them to do multiple sports. I know that when you're in the middle of the pack, some people say, well, they have to get better, right? I think the multiple sport, it helps your body develop and it gives you different strength and different things opposed to doing the same motion over and over again, right? Every sport's a little different for your body. And I think it's important to not wear your body out in a certain way, right? I think injuries happen more when you just focus on one sport. Not just me personally, just from me, my view. I'm not a doctor, but just my.
Listen, you have a lot of experience in this field, and I know that baseball is tough because kids now. I mean, geez, my little one will wind up playing between spring and fall. Wind up playing over 60 games. Sure. You're playing a lot of baseball, man, and especially if you're pitching and you're 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. You're not fully developed, so. All that motion, all that stuff is a lot on a kid's body.
It wears down. Now, could Anthony Sackett be better in baseball if he played a year round? 100%. But I think it helps him at his main sport, which is football, because he gives his body a rest and he plays, center field and his hitting comes around later in the season. But I think that helps him in football because I think it uses different muscles for him so he's not just constantly lifting or constantly doing those football drills year round. So I think it really depends on the kid, but I encourage it. And I think our best athletes at our school are multi-sport athletes. The best athletes at our school are multi-sport.
What's your opinion surrounding the AAU? And because we talk about basketball and AAU really, is one of the things that have changed the landscape of high school basketball and all kinds of stuff when it comes to youth basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gift and a curse, right? It gives the kids exposure. It lets them play in front of people they need to play in front of. But also, it's just not as organized, right? You're not running sets. You don't have the time to practice to gain the great habits you need to, right? So I think it has advantages, but also a disadvantage. I think it can harm some of the fundamentals of the game. And when the kids get in the season, they have to shake some bad habits. But also, I understand the importance of when college coaches or when coaches are available to see you, this is the time period, and that's the summer, right? So we want these kids to be seen, and that's our job is to get them out there. They have tweaked a little bit, so they allow these summer events for you to play with high school now. The NCAA changes. So like Philadelphia, coach at Wood, John Moscow, and a coach at Imhotep, Andre Noble, two great guys. They run Philly Live, and teams come from all over the country. We hosted the Prep, and it's at Jefferson University, and it's over 100 teams, and you're playing with your high school team. So it's more structured. You have a better understanding, and it's during the summer. So they're changing to kind of try to find that median, at least in the high school space. But it has its advantages, it has disadvantages. And again, some kids are going year round because of it. And I think I'm not a fan of playing anything year round. Me personally, I try to break it up and, either give them a break or have them do something else to kind of not A, burn them out, or B, have their body wear down.
Well, the burnout thing is something that's real. Like because we as parents, we're trying to give them every extra edge and everything that they need. But your point is correct. Like you get a kid, at some point they do need to do something else, because you could just see it after a while. Burnout is a real deal.
Yeah, and the more we learn about it, right? I mean, we're learning more about the mental health and things of that nature, and it's real, man. We're lucky enough. We have Dr. Joel Fish on staff. He actually works with the Sixers, and he works at the Prep as well for mental health. So he comes in our athletic department meetings, and then he goes to all our coaches' meetings, and he sits down with our coaches to talk to them about it, right? He gives them the updated studies and articles, and he sits with our coaches to talk to them about it, like burnout and mental health, because it's very real. It was neglected. It was just like, hey, toughen up, right? But now the more we learn about it, it's real. And again, at the Prep, we're very blessed to have him be on our staff, and we're lucky enough to have a sports psychologist at our access. But it's been a game changer for me, because he talks to parents. He's his own retainer for us. So to help us alleviate and educate our parents and our coaches is a great thing that we're able to.
I love it. I think that's, Danny, I think that's a big deal. I love having it. And look, I mean, like you said, we've learned so much now, and these kids today have so much more. It's a lot more complicated. Like, the world is complicated. Obviously, social media is one thing, but just so many things there, because there's been such a dramatic change, that the kids have it hard today.
Yeah, it's not black and white anymore, right? It's usually right and wrong. There's gray areas. There's all kinds of, and for them to have to navigate that in this space and on social media and all this stuff, it just added on. So, it's a different world, and we just got to continue to adapt and give these kids the best opportunity to succeed. That's another thing we just got into this year. We're going to have for our student athletes and a club, we're going to have a social media club where guys talk about it, how to promote yourself, what to put in, what not to put in, right? Because as a freshman, you could post something, and then you're in NFL 10 years later, and it's coming up, right? It's real. That once you click send, it's out there, right?
Yeah.
And someone's going to
they need to understand that. Yeah.
To try to educate these kids about it, regardless if they're going to be a professional athlete, whatever they're going to do in life, right? To educate them, to have the knowledge to say, okay, this is permanent. I can't talk about this, or I don't want to hashtag that, or and college coaches look at it too now when they're recruiting a kid, right? I mean, that's part of it. They scroll through they have a whole printout of their social media. They have all that stuff. So again, just continue to educate these parents, our kids, and that's how we've been staying ahead of it. And I feel like that's the reason why we've been successful at the Prep, is we continue to evolve, and the school supports a lot of these initiatives, like sports psychologists and people coming in to talk about social media, and having strength and conditioning coaches for other sports to kind of bring all this knowledge in to maximize these kids so they can have the best opportunity while they're at the St. Joe's Prep.
When you see kids, with youth sports players, do you believe in some of the trainers and specific trainers and coaches? Again, should my baseball kid be, have regular pitching and hitting sessions beyond just playing in their sport? Should our basketball kids, go to, have certain individual trainers? Soccer is such an important thing when it comes to individual training. What's your belief on that? Because it's a slippery slope too, where parents are going through a lot of money,
for sure,
for all this stuff.
some guys are elite, right? And they're worth it, right? But there's also guys that are mediocre that are just there to collect a check, right? So it's really hard to find and really figure out what's the best. I'm under the impression of get taught and then go train, get what you learned and then practice what you just got taught, right? Like pay for a guy who's really good, have him teach and say, all right, now you do that drill 10 times in our backyard, or you go to the field and you do that drill, right? And then not be going 3-4 times a week. I think there's a happy median that you can find where if the kid goes in and you go in with the right mindset where you're going to really take the most out of this session and you're going to kind of do stuff on your own. So you're not paying 4 times a week, right? I mean, that's outrageous. I mean, it's not sustainable.
Right.
Not sustainable for the parents. It's like, what are you going to do? You're paying $500 a week to train a kid. And like, look, I don't knock these guys because some of them are great and they get kids to that next level. But as a parent, I think the best way to figure out is, okay, find the guy who's really good, go there, learn, and then work on your own. And whenever, go get touch-ups every couple, maybe twice a month opposed to 4 times a week, right? I think there's a happy median there but you need the kid to take some initiative. And as a parent, you got to kind of say, okay, let's go out and do this, or I want you out here doing this, right?
Dude, I think that's so important, right? I have a friend of mine, Steve Koploff, whose sons, Mike Koploff, and they both, there were 2 pitchers. They both want Kenny Koploff is the other. They both, Michael pitched for Arizona for the Diamondbacks. Kenny would have got it. He blew out his arm. He was throwing 99. And they run a youth program in South Philly. And I remember Steve telling me, like, listen, you as parents, if you're going to have them play travel ball, whatever sport, right? In this case, it was baseball. You got to be a big part of it, right? Like, you got to go out and you got to coach them. Like, he used to say, if whatever position your kid's playing, go, like, I would go on the third base side and, just talk to them. Like, hey, look, at the game, make sure you got your glove down, little things, just talking to them, that sort of thing. He's like, the more you're coaching, the more you're active, and the more you as a parent are active in your kid's career, career, let's call it, the better, because the child more than anybody.
For sure. And some parents think, hey, I'm paying, this is my time to sit back and relax. And I say, go pay attention, see what they're coaching, right? So you can do that on your own time, and then you're saving yourself money. Some people are like, well, I need to break, right? I get that, but you're not maximizing it, right? If you really, I think the key is for a parent to go watch that training session and then say, all right, we could do some of this on our own, right? And then you're saving money, you're spending time with your kid, and he's getting better, right? So it's a trickle-down effect, but some people just, they don't have the time, or, I know there's other obstacles in the way, but I think in a the best case scenario is where you go, you take them to this place, you watch, and then you do some work with them on your own, right? And you've learned by watching the trainer, right? You see what they're doing, and you can do it with them as well.
Yeah. What's the other thing too is, and I'm sure as you're talking to kids and looking at kids that are going to be a part of the school, the parent is also a part of the equation. Obviously, the child is at the forefront, but the parent as well. I'm sure you want responsible people. You want add good people, because we as parents can go a little goofy when it comes to sports and not realizing like our place as parents.
And a lot of sports where I'll have conversation, school will just be starting and the parents like, well, he's got to start. I'm like, look, the best kid starts, right? Like, and if you have that mindset, maybe this isn't the best place for you, right? Like, we want you, right? But if that's your mindset where you have this plan where he is starting by his freshman year or his sophomore year, hey, we're successful because the best kid will always play. We don't make promises. Whoever's going to come in and work, they'll get their spot, right? And kids wait their time, because especially if you're through our program and you're a senior, you're going to play, right? Like, if you spend your time, we get it, like, because you're going to have that knowledge because you put that time in. So we could have a kid who's a freak as a freshman, but that senior's going to have so much knowledge from their time and energy they put in it. They're light years ahead. So we encourage that, and we kind of try to have that as our culture. It's like, look, we don't promise anything to anybody, and you got to come in and earn it. And if you think your kid, or you have that mindset, maybe this isn't the place for you to be right now,
Sure. No, and listen, sports, if you have a kid, and the parents should know, I mean, I think you would agree here, that if you have a kid that, has some ability, and look, we know the expense of college, right? Like, to me, as a parent, it's all about, like, if I can get my kid to get a little bit of aid in college, right? Like that's a big deal. It also helps you get into certain schools, the fact that you're playing a sport. And I think it all comes down to, as youth sports parents, you kind of want to arc them toward college. That's the ultimate goal, right?
That's what I always tell these people. It's like, yeah, you want to invest now because it's such a longer investment. I have good friends who've come out of school with $200,000 in debt, and they have good jobs. They can't do anything because they're surrounded in debt from college, right? They're still paying it off 15, 20 years later, and they're paying a mortgage on student loans, right? So to be able to chip that away and make it manageable, to come out of school with little to no debt, it is life-changing. And kids don't see it. But as a parent, if you could see that, you're setting your kid up. They're going to thank you 10 times later down the line. Be like, oh, wow, because they're going to see their friends. Like, I've saw my friends. I had very little debt. My parents were very helpful in that, and they taught me, right? So to have that ability, now I see my friends struggling and they can't get the house they want to get because they're paying $2,000 a month in student loans. It's game changing. So that's the goal. And there's money at every level, right? Like D3, they figure a way to get you money, right? There's not an athletic scholarship, but there's ways to get there to make it affordable. So sports is a great avenue. It's a great way to get you to be successful in life and anything. I think the characteristics, the structure of it all, it helps you be great in life, right? That's what I try to tell these kids, especially coming in some of our programs where we're practicing at 5 a.m. Like, look, this is going to help you wake up later in life. You're going to be robotic, right? 5 a.m. is not going to be a sweat to you where people are struggling to get up. You're going to have that built into you because we're doing it in 9th grade, right? So we're getting used to and getting them ready for the world. I mean, at the prep, we say we want to be men of others and we want to give back to, we want them to come in as boys and leave men. And that's kind of that's our mantra. And that's what we've kind of been able to do through the school and athletics.
Welcome to Primo. How can we help you today?
One old-fashioned meatball, and make it quick, because I got practice.
You got it. Coach?
Congratulations, Coach!
You've been nominated by your team to win 2 tickets to the big game!
Wait, nominated? So I didn't win?
Smile. Not yet, Coach.
Most valuable
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile,
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile.
Come on, smile.
Smile for the cameras,
Smile.
coach.
You got to be kidding me.
Smile, coach. There's a lot of other sports. I know we talked a lot about basketball and football and soccer, but there's a lot of opportunity in those other sports to get help, college scholarships. And you as the AD preside over all the other ones.
Yeah, so we have 20 varsity sports now. We have mountain biking, we have squash, we have ultimate frisbee. Our crew team has been top 10 in the country the last 4 years, and we're sending kids to this last class. We had 3 kids rowing the U18 Olympic boat from our school alone. The kids going to Harvard, Stanford, and Princeton, right? Like, wow. Come on, right?
That's awesome. That's great.
And their lives are going to be better for it. So we have a very strong crew program where we're sending 15, 20 kids a year to the top schools in the country, right? People don't think about, crew. If you're good at crew, you pick your school, right? And you're getting in these Ivy League schools. You're going to Harvard. You're going to Yale. You're going to Princeton. You're going to Penn. And it's game changing, right? So I tell kids, like, try everything, right? Don't be too cool. Try everything. Lacrosse is a great way, right? I tell everyone this, one of my good friends in high school, he was fast, he's shifty, never played lacrosse. Tries it out, figures it out, ends up being the all-time leading goal scorer and goes to college for free. It's like he never even tried. He just tried it, right? And it's like wrestling, right? There's so many ways. There's so many sports that translate that you just got to give it a try. And that's why I talk about the multi-sport athlete. Like, you got to give it a try, man. You got to try other things because you don't know. There's a lot of sports that you don't try till you get to high school. Like crew, there's no one rows before they get to prep, right? Now they're picking their school. They're going to wherever they want to go in the country, and they're rowing for the Olympics, and they're going to London for the Henley Regatta. So there's all different types of avenues, and that's my big pitch to these incoming kids is like, don't be too cool, right? Try things. Be open. Try it all. It doesn't hurt.
Is there a prerequisite that you if you attend the prep, you have to play a sport?
No, but we have 900 and about 40 boys. We have over 700 athletes. So about 75% of our boys are active in sports. But we also have a huge, it's called Cape and Sword. It's an arts program. We got about 100 kids in that. So every kid's active in something, right? Whether they're doing arts or they're doing activities, they're active. And we just continue to add sports. I tell kids if they're interested in it, we'll get it. So mountain biking, 2 years ago that we started it, we got 40 kids now on the mountain biking team.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And they're competing, and we're doing really well in the league, and the kids love it, man. So we just continuing to give these kids avenues to better themselves and to learn and just help them be more well-rounded individuals.
All right. So if I ask you, just to kind of wind this thing up, advice for those parents that are, kids, youth athletes, couple of the things that come to mind that maybe we haven't covered, something that you feel strongly about to really kind of help the youth sports parent, what would you say?
Yeah, I think a big thing is being coachable these days, right? I think that's your people are losing that, right? And when you're coachable, you learn and you develop, right? And you can learn and you can change. Kids, people just have tunnel vision. They set these goals, which is great to set goals, but you got to be ready. You can't just have laser focus. There's going to be hurdles that come your way. You got to be able to zigzag, right? You got to be able to hurdle stuff. So teaching your kids that open-mindedness and coachability, right? And also, the discipline, to be on time, right? Especially for football, if you're not on time, you're not playing. You're showing up late, you don't play. This is how it works. So getting some of the old school things that have been lost over the years, where people are more just, all right, I'm going to train at this sport and my kids don't do this, this, and this. I want everyone to set goals and I want everyone to have dreams and I want everyone to hit them. But be open to how you can how that road's going to be. It's never going to be a straight line, right? A lot of people have that focus. And I think having that open mind, being able to adapt, right? And learning from your failures, right? I mean, people sulk and it's just a different type of world. Learn, right? That's a learning event, right? Keep your head up and learn. Be ready. You don't want to feel that pain again. So what are you going to do to change it, right? I know it's tough when they're in 7th, 8th grade, but if kids are learning, having that built into them, they're so ahead of the game because we're teaching them in 9th and 10th grade. So if they come in with that mindset already, they're ahead of the game because it's not a learning curve and they're ready to learn from that mistake. Or they're open to trying different things and not saying, this is the path I have to go. Maybe I love football, but I'll try wrestling. That wrestling in my off season might get me better because like we said, our D tackle, he played offensive line his freshman year. He was on freshman football. He wrestles. He wins the district. He does great at states. He comes back, and now he's a defensive lineman. He has every offer in the country because he learned how to use his hands, and he learned positioning, and he got quicker because he tried something else. He was an offensive lineman. Now he's a D tackle who was 4 stars, and he's got an offer from every school in the country, right? So it's not saying this is the plan, right? Going in and having goals, but being open to the journey, right? And not just being that one way.
And adapting to failure, right? Like, and not that it's failure, but like in every sport, you're going to have, not every game's going to be a great game. You got to deal with small failures to bigger disappointments, and you got to be able to bounce back out of that. I think, some of the things I think kids really need to work on today is kind of rebounding off of, something that did not go their way.
Yep. And also a big thing in the sports is kids say, well, I'm a quarterback. I'm this.
Right.
Well, you don't know, right? You're an athlete right now, right?
Right.
So being able to adapt, be a chameleon, be ready to figure out a way to get you on the field, because when you're on the field, that's when you're going to get opportunities, right? You're not going to get opportunities being hard-headed and saying, this is what I play, right? Having that open mind to say, you tell me, coach, where you need me, right? And I read a ton of coaching books trying to coach with these guys. Like Coach K has the hand in the fish, right? So you smack someone, it hurts. But when you come together, you fish, you're putting people down. So be a part of having that, be like, I want that fish mentality, right? I want to come together and do what I can to win. And that's getting kind of lost in this culture, right? because everyone's so individualistic. Everyone's doing their individual training. But when you come in, at least for our coaches, when you come in with that mindset, you're light years ahead, and you hit the ground running. And when you hit adversity, you're handling it much better, right? Adversity builds character. You're ready to go. So I think it's just educating these kids at home. I think it gets overlooked, just those conversations and having those kids ready for that mindset. People are just like, my son's really good at sport. I'm just going to pay to get trained. I'm going to send them off. No, you got to have conversations with them about the world and how it's going to be in that path, right? So they just think, oh, well, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be the starting quarterback. No, you're not. It's not how it works. And then that's the speed bump, right? Where if you already come in with the right mindset, you're ready to handle it.
You're spot on, man. I love your messaging, Danny. I do love your messaging. And that's important, especially in this area, because, sports is so important to us in our area. I mean, you just look around, it just has grown and grown and grown. And you've seen the amount of talent that is being, exported locally here across all sports.
I mean, there's a little brag here, but we could have 3 guys from the same high school class drafted in the first round this year in the NFL draft. Kyle McCordick, starting quarterback at Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Jeremiah Trott Jr., the number 1 linebacker in the country. All 3 of those guys are projected first-round picks from the same high school, and they grew up within 20 miles of each other, right? Like, it's going to be the first time in history. They're going to light the world on fire this year. We're so proud of them. But it's just, you're talking about like how important it is locally and the amount of talent we have in our area. It's great, and I can't wait to see these kids continue to grow. I would love to have you down at the IMG game. You let me know. You and the boys want to come down in Ocean City. I'll bring you down the field. We'll have a great time, man.
It sounds like a plan. Can't wait, Danny. Listen, best of luck this year, and keep up the great work. You're really incredible. Making really strong student athletes. So we appreciate it, buddy.
I appreciate that. My dad sends his love. We were in Italy in June together. We had a nice time, but he sends his love.
Oh, that's fantastic. Where'd you go?
We did Cinque Terre for the first time, a little north, but then we visited the family in Abruzzo. So we always go back to our to where our relatives live, and we stay with them for a couple weeks. So it's great.
It's the best, isn't it? There's nothing. Oh my God, that's the greatest.
Exactly.
My brother, I love you, buddy. You're the best, man. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, cuz. Anytime.
Hey guys, Brendan Petrilli here. I'm the editor and producer of Yo Kid Sports. Want to thank everybody out there for watching the very first episode of the podcast. Make sure you click that subscribe button, share it, friends, family, everybody. We're having big names, we're having local names, we're having everybody on the podcast. Hope you guys enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you go check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everywhere. All the links will be in the description. Also for the Primos giveaway to register your coach, that link will also be down there. Thanks again so much for everybody listening. Yo Kid Sports. It's going to be a heck of a ride.